Hey guys, today's video is brought to you by Crunchyroll. You know who they are. Anime, it's streaming. It goes into your eyeballs, which is the best place for it to go. And right now, you can get 30 days of ad-free service for free, the best price, by going to crunchyroll.com/todaynerdhistory. I've been watching Mob Psycho 100, which was created by One, the guy who made One Punch Man. It is so good, guys. Give it a shot. Let me know if you like it, because I think that you're gonna. But for now, let's start the video.
Today in Nerd History!
Believe it or not, nobody's perfect. I mean, even I have flaws. I know you look at me and you're like, there's a real humdinger of a guy, there's a real specimen. But I've got flaws, problems, everyone does, even superheroes. Some of them have been more than just flawed, some have been outwardly evil. Let's take a look at 5 Marvel superheroes with seriously villainous pasts. Number 1, Charles Xavier. On the surface, Charles Xavier is the icon of hope, acceptance, and human-mutant coexistence. But time and time again, he has swan-dived straight into the darker area of the ethical gray zone. Take, for instance, the Deadly Genesis storyline, which retconned the introduction of mutant staples Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, and more. The good prof put his new team together to save the old team from a big bad walking talking island named Krakoa. But Deadly Genesis also retconned a startling reveal. The new team set on this rescue mission is actually the second team that was sent out. Members of the first team were straight up obliterated, and Charlie X, overcome with guilt, or more likely fearing bad PR, used his massive psychic powers to wipe people's minds to pretend that this just never happened. Years later, Xavier dropped the ball even harder. Finally pushed to his breaking point, Xavier tried to slurp up Magneto's mind, but just ended up combining into the super monster Onslaught, which was just, no good for anybody. Xavier also secretly brainwashed a guy since childbirth to keep his powers in check. He drugged and experimented on his own son, David. He shot the Hulk into outer space because he was just tired of putting up with his bullshit. Oh, and he helped capture the first natural-born mutant in years and sent her hurtling through time. Chuck, can you read my mind? Yeah, it says it there in the thought bubble. You're a dick, dude. Number 2, Tony Stark. Okay, so Tony Stark's whole deal is that he's like a callous war profiteer who then grows a conscience and decides to change his ways. But maybe he never really stopped being a kind of super bad guy. Writer Brian Michael Bendis took Iron Man's daddy knows best imperialist attitude to its logical conclusion. This run stuck Tony Stark in the Illuminati, where he could casually guide world affairs with no restriction. Oh, and also help shoot the Hulk into space. Then there was Civil War, which painted Tony Stark as pretty much a 150% bad guy. Not only does he pull a complete 180 on his beliefs to call for superhuman registration, but as a smear tactic, he helps Reed Richards build an evil robot Thor who ends up blasting a hole straight through a member of the Avengers. Then there's the part where he quietly ships off dissidents to the negative zone where they could live out their lives with horrible, voracious bug monsters without having to meddle in human politics. Mark Millar's run writing the character took him so far straight up into villain territory that Matt Fraction had to invent circumstances for Tony Stark to pretty much reboot his brain. Now, if only someone could turn his weird goatee into literally anything else. Like my perfect facial hair. It's back, baby! You asked for it, you got it! Tony with a beard. 2016, it's happening. Number 3, the Hank Pym version of Ant-Man. The Marvel Cinematic Universe version of Hank Pym actually gives you a bare-bones Michael Douglas version of a character who has an incredibly dubious past. In the comics, Hank Pym's sole recognized scientific achievement is finding the Pym particle that lets him shrink and grow at will. While in the real world, that's a reality-altering holy shit cool kind of thing, in the Marvel world it makes him kind of a one-hit wonder. And naturally, the comic book logic way for him to stir up a little more fame to himself is to build a killer robot that only he can stop. Which seems like a great idea, especially since in the comics, this is the same dude who's responsible for creating Ultron, and we all know how well that went. Also, did I mention that he is a wife beater? Oh, Hank, you were the worst person. You're so bad. Later, Hank decided to start a fun thing called the Avengers Academy. Despite its name, it wasn't exactly superhero Hogwarts and was more of an internment camp where he could quarantine kids that he deemed as a possible risk to public safety. All the while, Hank lied to the kids, telling them that they could be the next Avengers team. After realizing that they slowly built Hank Pym into the most humongous asshole, Marvel decided to just own it and literally merged Hank and Ultron in the Rage of Ultron story. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself get smushed into another character who's an actual evil bad guy. And then you're one dude, and then you both are just the worst. Number 4, Reed Richards. The Ultimates line of Marvel titles was a recent attempt to update and modernize their whole lineup of heroes. But when it came to the Fantastic Four, a title that wasn't exactly selling like gangbusters, Reed Richards got the short, weird, hyper-violent end of the stick. Not only did they take away the one cool thing about him, no, not his stretchy powers, I'm talking about his cool gray hair temples, but they canceled his book pretty quickly. That doesn't mean they were done with him though. In a drastic turn of events, Reed Richards up and killed his parents and let in an invading army of cross-dimensional aliens. From here, Richard captured Tony Stark and dissected his brain, and not long after, Richards got the Harvey Dent treatment and had half of his face and one of his eyeballs burnt off, and he disappeared into the cracks of the Marvel Universe temporarily, only to return as a villainous character known as the Maker. He eventually got wrapped up as a minion of Thanos and jumped from the Ultimates universe to becoming a straight-up for-real regular bad guy in the prime Earth 616 universe. The lesson here is to tread lightly while making fun of an unsuccessful Fantastic Four property because it could mean your head. I personally thought that Fanforstic was great. Really good. Number 5, Nick Fury. The regular non-Ultimates version of Nick Fury started as, guess what, a really boring by-the-books World War II hero. But as the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., Fury started to get his hands just all out filthy. The guy wasn't above murdering people in cold blood, leading a preemptive attack on Latveria, the crib of one Dr. Doom, erasing the memories of heroes who helped him, and recruiting unregistered superpowered teens onto his team of secret warriors. And with these teens, Fury mercilessly murdered turncoats who joined Norman Osborn's regime, claiming the only thing he'd feel when he was killing them would be recoil. He also tossed the treacherous boyfriend of his gang's leader into a freaking bottomless pit, and then lied about doing it. And one of his most dubious actions occurred during the Marvel event Original Sin. In this, an alien watcher tasked with recording every important event on Earth gets one of his VCR eyeballs stolen by some C-list villains. The watcher is sworn never to interfere with Earth events, which means he can't tell Nick Fury who stole his powerful recordo ball. So in order to find this mystical space guy's missing magic eyeball, Nick Fury kills him and takes his other eyeball, which makes a lot of sense to everyone, including me. And eventually, of course, everyone finds out about Nick Fury slaughtering this cosmic conscientious objector. And so Fury gets strapped to the moon, doomed to be the new Watcher, doomed to see everything, but able to do nothing about it. Oh, and he's already down one eyeball. Whoops. Ooh. Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Today's video is brought to you by Crunchyroll. You know them, you love them already. Crunchyroll is so good, you guys. If you haven't checked it out, you really need to. It's like the place to watch anime. Mob Psycho 100 is great, but you could also watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. There's so much stuff on there. You're guaranteed to like something. Once again, if you go to crunchyroll.com/todaynerdhistory, you could get 30 days of ad-free